With my experience in creating over 7 figures per month and a passion for marketing, finance, and automation, this show will provide tangible tips and techniques for scaling your business. Let's get started. It is our final episode of season 2. I can't believe it. This is season 2, episode 25, which makes it the big round 50th episode of the podcast, which is unreal. So first of all, thank you for tuning in. It has been an incredible season. We're going to go over a little bit later, top 5 episodes by downloads. We're going to chat about all sorts of things. We're going to talk about what's coming next for the podcast. It's going to be a fun, action-packed, amazing episode. First, I want to chat a little bit about experience. So in the last couple of weeks, it's been spring break. We did some super cool experiences over spring break, and I want to touch on them from a business perspective. So one of the things I've really talked about this season, towards the end of this season of the podcast, is really talking about like what is going on in the business world today. You know, one of the almost kind of arguments against university that I always heard was the information is old. And while I don't necessarily agree with that, I mean, I have spent a lot of years going to school. I do understand that needs to be a blend of theory on business and some of the concepts and also newer pieces. Last week on the podcast, we were talking about AI, rise of the robots, all these kinds of things that are super current. We've talked a little bit about Mascara Gate and social media marketing and, no such thing as bad press. Then, a little bit later, we talked about how, Hailey Bieber did show us actually that there is such a thing as bad press. She showed me that my comment was incorrect. Really just, again, it's kind of like everything is good in moderation. There's no such thing as bad press unless it's really, really, really bad. In the case of Hailey Bieber, if you have not been following, the Hailey Bieber situation online, she really stepped in it and is really struggling to get back out of it on the other side. I'm not here to argue any one side or whatnot, but it truly does show that when you create an audience, when you have loyal followers, whether that be all of the people right now talking about, the potential ban of TikTok and, being for or against that, whether it is people talking about the Selena versus Hailey argument. There's so many things. What it shows is people can really band together on a topic. And if you can create this kind of community around your business, if you can have these loyal people in your court, it can do amazing things for you. It can also do terrible things in the case of being on the wrong side of it. But, all of this to say, this podcast, as we move forward, will continue to be a place that we talk about business in today. It's one of the reasons why we don't pre-record a whole bunch of episodes, months in advance, because I want to talk about what is going on in the world today. This is not going to be a place where we talk about politics and current events so much, but something where we're talking about the business side of things. So, in that vein, I want to talk a little bit about 3 experiences I had recently from a business perspective, looking at some of these, how things were handled, how things were not handled, maybe spilling the tea a little bit on what it was like from a client perspective. And I want you to really think about in your own business, what does that mean? What does that mean for your business? What is the experience you're putting it out there in the world? So, the 3 experiences we're going to talk about over spring break, took the kids to Great Wolf Lodge. So that's going to be one experience we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about a recent trip to the pharmacy I had. So service-based business. Both, Great Wolf Lodge is a service really as well. An experience. They are in the experience business. And then I'm going to talk about my anniversary dinner. And something a little surprising there. So let's talk about Great Wolf Lodge first. Great Wolf Lodge, if you've never taken the kids, if you're not close, we're in Canada, we don't have Great Wolf Lodge, so we actually have to cross the border and whatnot. When we went down, it was the first Saturday of spring break. The border was absolutely crazy. It actually worked out to like a 7.5 hour trip down. It was like a 3.5 hour trip back. But anyway, here nor there. So, Great Wolf Lodge, from the moment you step inside, it's kind of like a miniature Disneyland. They really have thought of everything. They don't want you to leave. So, everything you could possibly need was there. You've got experiences for the kids, different entertainment to keep them busy. Even if they don't want to go in the pool, there's entertainment all day for the kids. There is lots of different things to do. There is, food and drinks for all. If you go to the restaurants, the buffet, whatever, they have lots of great kid options. They have lots of adult options. There are parent drinks. There are kid drinks. You can really rack up the bill. They make it so easy to spend money. They make it so easy to enjoy the experience because the parent wristband just charges to the room. When we remove the barrier, things just flow. And there were only 2 times in the whole time at Great Wolf Lodge that I was like, oh, well, that didn't go as planned. The first time, buying drinks from the poolside bar. So actually, when we arrived, so the kids get like a pass that you can basically, they call it like a wolf pass, I think. And so there's like 5 or 6 different things the kids can do. It's like they get a scoop of ice cream. They get, Build-A-Bear. They get to do this mining for gems thing. They get to do, it's like a little bit of a mini golf game, it's a little bit in the arcade. Here's where it is business genius. Number one, most things you're getting the base option and there is an upgrade. Now, when you have 3 kids, sometimes you say we're sticking with the base. We're not doing the upgrades. But let's take the Build-A-Bear, for instance. So with the Wolf Pass, you get your Build-A-Bear. You can pick one of the, these 5 options. It comes with no clothes, whatever else. But I stood there for a while. And I can tell you that most parents got the upgraded stuffy and many got clothes. So while the Wolf Pass was like, ooh, everything's included. Yep. So it was all included unless you started like upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. And that, comes back to an episode we did on the podcast quite some time ago called Would You Like Fries with That? And really deciding what in your business you can offer those. Have the base, have that offer. You could have an amazing time just completing everything on that Wolf Pass for the kids. But there are lots of parents that are willing to spend the extra. Maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. All that is relevant, whether you agree with the fact that we need so much random crap on the trip is irrelevant. From a business, this is what we're looking at these experiences from a business perspective. I can tell you, the parents got the sip and savor pass. So it came with all sorts of little goodies and extras for the parents. The kids got the wolf pass. There were still plenty of upgrades. Even being, cognizant of not doing too many upgrades. Anyway, so what can that be in your business? What is your base, but what are those upgrades for those who want them? Is one piece. But where this whole thing broke down happened 2 times on the whole. We were there for 2 nights, 2.5 days, I guess. And only 2 times that I was like, oh, that didn't work very well. So now you've got this amazing wristband. It opens your hotel room door. It charges things to your room. Everything is amazing. All is well, except for when you're at the pool trying to buy a drink, which is free with the sip and savor. You get these 2 little tiki drinks. They were delicious, by the way. You need ID. Well, I don't have ID. I'm in a swimsuit. I'm a band. And so then she's like, oh, I only need to ID you 1 time and then you're good to go. So the next day I went to get another drink. It was so good. I was like, oh, 1 more of those. I'll have 1 more of those. And now it's a different bartender. So now it doesn't work again. And I was like, oh, why don't they ID you at the beginning and give you like an extra, like, a specific band or a stamp or a something that says like you've been ID'd and you're good to get drinks. To be clear, I don't think that there is any way I could pass for under 21. I don't think I could. There's no way I'm underage. Like, it's just not happening. Um, but that is their business practice. And so the second day, although I really wanted that extra drink, and not so much that I wanted to go back to the hotel room and get my ID and come back to the pool. So I didn't have the drink. And so that was where, experience and desire and like barrier to purchase did not all align. So that was the first miss. The second miss, so, you got your gift shop that has a little bit of everything. They had some really cute stuff in the gift shop. But man, oh man, epic fail, Great Wolf Lodge. In the room, you got your toiletries, your little shampoos, etc., body wash, whatnot. So when we came in, so keep in mind we're a family of 5. The hotel room has 3 kids' beds and 1 parent bed. So like they know that there's 5 people. As a family of 5, hotel rooms can actually be challenging sometimes because most hotel rooms, unless you're doing like a bigger hotel room, which not all hotels have, is like really set up for 4 people. Anyway, so that's a discussion for another day. We're talking a little bit about the 5 people. We get there and there is 2 little tubes, tiny tubes of a conditioning shampoo. Let's be clear, conditioning shampoo is not the same thing as shampoo and a conditioner. Now it's like pool. So there wasn't really enough with the 2 little tiny tubes to begin with for all 5 people to shower. My daughter's hair, after being in the pool and then not having like legitimate conditioner, oh man. Oh boy. It was such a mess that I literally, all I could do was just put it into like a messy bun on the top of her head and wish for the best. But I was like, it was really bothering her. It was really bad. It was really bad. I was like, that's okay. I'm just going to go down to the gift shop and I'm going to buy some ridiculously overpriced bottle of conditioner and we're just going to fix this up. No problem. And I walked into the gift shop and you've looked and you're like, they must have conditioner. They have everything else in the little gift shop there, all in these little tiny bottles, overpriced for sure. But I'm like, well, I didn't bring, I guess next time. And for those going, bring shampoo and conditioner with you. Do not rely on the tiny tube of conditioning shampoo. It is terrible. They didn't have any. I didn't think they had any. I asked the lady at the front desk, I'm like, hey, like, do you guys have conditioner anywhere? She's like, oh, I think it's over in the corner over there. Why, thank you. I've already spent the last several minutes in the corner over there looking and didn't see it. So either you don't have it or you do have it and I'm blind. Either way, it was just that kind of like, and I had to go back to my hotel room, empty-handed, no conditioner. My daughter was like not happy about her hair, which by the end of the trip was just a matted, messy bun on the top of her head. And I was like, it's okay. We will just load it up with conditioner when we get home and brush it all out and it'll be fine. And it was. But it was just kind of like those were the 2 moments in an otherwise perfectly executed experience. Truly. Amazing experience, top to bottom by Great Wolf Lodge, except for these 2 things that were literally just kind of, ugh. So, noticing where those are in your business. I was recently in a basically kind of like a consult sales type meeting, and we were going over some handouts. And I had the opportunity, I actually, there's a number of people that I had driven with someone who I really think of kind of as a business mentor. And one of the questions he said to me as we were driving away was, what would you change about your handouts based on what was said? And it really made me think, because when you're in it, when you're just going, when you're thinking, you're not thinking about that in the meeting. But having that kind of reflection about your own business to say, one of the things that they had said. Now, these were just a little context. We have some case studies And they are typically available on our website, but this was an in-person meeting. And so I had created some like handout flyer type documents that had some of these numbers so that we could discuss them in the meeting. And I didn't want them to be overly promotional. So I had intentionally put our contact information fairly small. I mean, I was in the meeting. You know who I am. I'm right here. I didn't want it to be I wanted to be able to discuss the data from a more objective standpoint and not from a super like spammy marketing standpoint. But in the meeting, they were like, hey, is your email on here? Is your contact information on here? Where's your contact information? And I was like, ooh. So as we were driving home, I was like, oh, yes, I noticed that number one, my contact information should have been a little bigger. I guess I went too small. And number two, there was like, there was obviously some other questions and feedback and what could I add or subtract that would help simplify the process. It's taking those moments to really think about it. Now, if we go back to the Great Wolf Lodge example, someone who, if they're in that gift shop and multiple people come in looking for conditioner and they say, oh, I think it's in the corner over there. Someone who is great at their job would say, well, that person just left and didn't make a purchase. So I guess I either can't be found or it's not there. But either way, we should have some of this. And so, really that it's your customers provide feedback without actually providing feedback. If they don't purchase, if they ask a specific question, if people get hung up in the process somewhere, that is feedback. And really taking those moments to recognize that feedback. So, second experience we're going to chat a little bit about is the pharmacy. I don't rage very often. I'm not a super ragey person. But let me tell you the rage that this experience gave me. Now, full disclosure, I love our pharmacy. They are typically outstanding. It's a smaller pharmacy, and we're in Canada, so a little bit different than in the States. But we have, basically lots of like corporate kind of chain pharmacies. And but it's much smaller. And so, like one of our local pharmacies, if you're going to get a prescription refill, it is several days to pick it up. And this one, usually I go in and they're like, yeah, it'll be ready in about 20 minutes. They're really good, but they are smaller. So if you need something that they might not have, if it's, a little bit different or not super common, they might have to order it in. So I had a prescription for one of my kids. It was super time sensitive. I need it today. And to be honest, my calendar is stacked and I actually need it like right now. So I go into the pharmacy and the very first thing I asked the pharmacist, I said, hey, would you mind just having a look and making sure you have these items in stock? I do need them today. If you're not able to get them, I have to go somewhere else. The pharmacist who was on, who is not my favorite, is not my favorite pharmacist. There's a few in there. But this particular pharmacist, she takes a quick look and says, oh yeah, we have all of this. It'll be 20 minutes. And I was like, okay, great. And I thought, it was a nice sunny afternoon. I knew I had all sorts of things to do, but I was just going to take that 20 minutes. I kind of played around on TikTok, saved a couple sounds to use for future content, enjoyed the sunshine, and went back in. There was no phone calls or anything in that time from the pharmacy. I go in to pick up the stuff. Now I'm like in a hurry. We got stuff to do, and I need the prescription. And she goes, oh, by the way, we don't have this one. And so we can order it in and it will be here tomorrow or the next day. And I said, no, I asked you to check if I wouldn't normally push back, but I really needed this prescription today, which is why I asked you to check if it was in stock before I gave you the handout, the prescription. She's like, oh yeah, we don't have it. She did not actually acknowledge that I had said, and I thought, you could just say like, oh, I'm really sorry. I thought we had this, but we don't. And now let's problem solve on how we're going to get it. But she totally skipped over it. And so now normally I rave about our pharmacy. I've recommended people go there. I'm super happy with it normally. And I know it's a smaller, and I'm okay with the fact that sometimes things need to be ordered in. It's fine. But in this case, I can't wait for something to be ordered in. I need it now. And I know that if I go to some of the bigger pharmacies, they will have it in stock and I might have to wait a little longer to actually get the prescription and whatever else. But I need the prescription. Today, the objective is to get that prescription now. And so she says, well, you're going to have to go to another pharmacy and they're going to have to call me and we'll have to transfer this prescription. I've filled the other two. So, they'll call me, I'll approve the transfer. I'm like thinking, this is not efficient anymore. It would have been significantly more efficient for you just to say, I don't have this in stock, give me back the paper and me carry on. Because now I have to go find another pharmacy that does have it in stock. They have to call you. You have to not be busy. You have to transfer all these different things. And of course, I did not have my wallet with me, which had our insurance card in it because we always deal with the same pharmacy and they have the insurance on file. So from a customer experience perspective, I went in knowing like, hey, we're good. And now I'm like, oh my goodness. So I said, I just want to highlight that I did ask for this reason. This is not a great customer experience. And she kind of says, well, that's the way that it is. This is the pharmacy regulation. Like I can't. And I said, no, to be clear, this isn't about I understand you have to transfer it. There's nothing else you can do. However, I did it. And she would not acknowledge it. And it was such a poor customer experience. People make mistakes. We can all reflect on a time where we thought something was okay. And then later you realize, ooh, that was not okay. Like if you thought you had something, maybe you're cooking dinner, you thought you had all the ingredients, you go to grab something and you're like, where's out? It's gone. Like it happens. But it took me an additional hour and a half to end up getting that prescription. And I was in a hurry and I was so frustrated because she did not acknowledge. And so sometimes if you make a mistake, if something is wrong, you just say, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake. Because I'm a super happy, loyal customer. And you just sparked a rage that I don't experience very often. So, not a great experience. But overall, I love our pharmacy typically, but it was a poor experience. And to round out our kind of customer experience from the business perspective side, my husband and I went out for this amazing anniversary dinner. It was you have to make reservations. You can choose a 3 or 5 course meal. Those are your choices, 3 or 5 course. I think if you choose the 3 course, you get more meal menu options. Well, when I booked our reservations, I thought, oh, let's do the 5 course. This is exciting. It's like a chef's pick. So you don't know the menu ahead of time. Now, I'm not super adventurous with my eating. So even just booking this was pretty adventurous for me. And my husband is not super adventurous either. So, but it was in this small town where we went. If you follow me on social media, you know that we went to Ucluelet, which is on the very Pacific, very west side of Vancouver Island, the raw Pacific Ocean. It's my absolute favorite. We got married there. And so this is a, absolutely amazing restaurant in town in Ucluelet. Food was amazing. The experience was incredible overall. So we walk into this restaurant and we're 7 minutes early for our reservation. This is a hole in the wall restaurant. I think they had pretty much all the tables were 2-seaters except maybe 2 or 4-seaters. There's probably 10 tables in the whole place. And there's this tiny little hallway to come in. This place is tiny. We walk in 7 minutes early and the hostess says, "You're early." There's only 1 table is filled and the rest are empty. "You're early." I'm like, oh yeah, just it just didn't take us very long to get there. We thought we would take longer. "You'll have to wait here." I'm like, here? Where is here? We're literally blocking the entire hallway. And it was kind of my husband and I kind of looked at each other. We looked at the empty tables and just the way that she was it was a tone. And literally she turned around. She was a 360 and it was almost like a video where someone turns around, does a transition in their TikTok or whatever. And she had put her customer service face on and she was like, "Oh, you know what? Actually, let's just get you seated. Let's not have you standing in the hallway." It was, And she like brought us over to the table, and immediately this customer experience was amazing. But like that initial, it was almost like she hadn't like turned her customer service voice on yet. And the initial response was like, "Oh, you're early. You're going to have to wait in the hallway." She actually went on to say, "You can wait inside where it's warm," because it was quite chilly. And I was like in a dress and like hadn't brought a jacket and whatever else. Like I'm thinking, I'm not standing outside waiting. And so this initial response was only a few words, but it was kind of like, "Oh, what's going on?" And she literally, I mean, we stood in the hallway for maybe 60 seconds. She turned around and it was like this fresh, "Oh, you know what? Actually, let's just get you seated and let's get this experience started and whatnot." And from that moment, it was an incredible experience. Lots of food that I probably would not eat again or like order on a menu. But when you're eating, it was like multiple courses, little bits of food for everything. I ate a little extra of anything seafood related. My husband ate a little extra on some other things that I didn't really want to eat. And overall, incredible experience. Great food. I would highly recommend. You check them out. I will link them in the show notes if you're ever in that area. I'm actually thinking about doing, one of the parts of our anniversary trip is just the downtime away from the day-to-day parts of your business. I'm a huge advocate of taking time in doing like a retreat for your business. We're going to talk more about that in season 3. I'm a huge advocate of taking time to really think about your business. Oftentimes I've flown across North America to work with business owners where we've just locked ourselves in a hotel room, ordered lots of room service, and just dove in to like immersed in the business plan and strategy for multiple days. But I've never, I finding that time for your own business. It's the mechanic's car that doesn't necessarily work the best. It's the house cleaner with the dirty house. It's like whatever your business is, your own stuff is the last to think about. And the weeks leading up to going away, I've talked about the fact that our agency is growing like crazy, the podcast is growing like crazy. Everything is in like full hustle mode and it's amazing. But taking the time to just pause and really think, I find it harder right now to find that time. And so now here we are in this beautiful place that's so peaceful. I don't know, something about whether it's the rain, the ocean waves, all these kinds of things, they get my brain going. And so thinking about the business, luckily my husband is incredible. So on our anniversary trip, we're talking, new business ideas, old business ideas, we're bouncing, and so I'm lucky that he, is willing to have these discussions with me and whatnot, because, and he did say, "You should be relaxing." And I'm like, "This is relaxing to me. I love my business. I take this time and whatnot." I'm thinking about doing a retreat there for business owners because we got married there. So I know that their whole event planning with their food is incredible and the spa is incredible and all these kinds of things. So I'm going to be talking about that in the coming weeks in the Facebook community, planning out some kind of retreat around, you know, basically strategizing and planning out the budgets and doing some of these things, because I'm a firm believer that taking those times for your business, even though I struggle to do it for myself, I it's so important. Carving out that time is so important. I did more thinking, ideas, processing, and whatnot on just like, a 2-day trip, just away from the day-to-day of your business. You have to get out of the nuts and bolts. You have to get out of the weeds to get to that 30,000 foot view and say like, "Hey, what are we doing here? What's the strategy? What's going on?" So we're gonna be talking about that more in the Facebook community coming up. So that is, super exciting. We're going to be diving in more on some of these current business events, experiences, different things going on. This is all coming in season 3 of the podcast. We're going to be leaning in a little more, talking about some of these things. And I want to, if you have either a guest recommendation, you have questions you want to talk about on the podcast, all of these things, I want to be talking about that in the Facebook community. We're going to continue to grow in that area so that this podcast continues to be a source of information, motivation, inspiration, all these different pieces for entrepreneurs, service-based entrepreneurs. Obviously, so much of what we talk about applies to all different businesses, but service-based businesses are underserved. And so we're going to continue to lean in on that. and we're going to continue to be the source of information and motivation and whatnot. So if you're interested in learning about season 3, what's coming up, if you have questions that you want discussed, come hang out in the Facebook community. Let's talk about them. I'm also going to be doing some questions and surveys and whatnot to really develop this retreat for entrepreneurs in a way that is going to serve entrepreneurs best, to help find that a great balance of quiet time, processing time, thinking time, so that you actually have time to process. I've been to some incredible business events. I've, seen some amazing speakers, and you often leave with a notebook of ideas and whatnot. But then you get back in your business and you're like, get back to the day to day, and you haven't ever really decided how you're going to implement those into your business, how you're going to action them. And so there's this disconnect. And so this retreat that I'm planning, I want to make sure that you leave with that piece done. How are you putting it into your business? So that is coming soon. All to be discussed in the Facebook community. We're also going to do a masterclass coming up based on some invoicing best practices for service-based businesses. We are an official QuickBooks partner on both the US and Canadian side. On the Canada side, just got word today, we've actually been upgraded to a platinum business partner. And so lots going on there. And I really want to be giving that information back. Now, talking about bookkeeping on the podcast, even though bookkeeping is such a huge part of what we do, it is the basis of the data-driven model. You can't really pull any data from your business if your bookkeeping is behind. I don't want to talk about bookkeeping on the podcast. It's not something that works in an audio-only platform. So we will be doing more of you'll see more of that content on our YouTube channel, in the Facebook community and whatnot. Lots of free bookkeeping content. If you have questions, if you haven't signed up yet for QuickBooks, I'm going to drop our discount codes for both Canada and US also in the show notes. I feel like there's this, we're kind of just summarizing and wrapping things up and whatnot, discussing what's coming soon. But I also want to quickly touch on what has worked so far. I want to talk about our top 5 episodes to date. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode here, this is episode 25 of season 2. We are 50 episodes in. And I am so proud. I honestly am so proud of how far we've come. And our new listeners, new discussions that are happening, all these types, overall, I just love it. And so I want to talk about those top 5 episodes, because if you're, a newer listener, maybe you haven't listened to some of the old content, and I say old, it's not that old, now you can kind of go back and have a listen to maybe some specific episodes that might appeal to you. So on the 5th, we're gonna work backwards here. We're gonna lean in. My daughter's cheerleader, they do the rewards in reverse. So, and in the number 5 spot, I'm gonna put on my announcer voice here. We have season 2, episode 18, Back to My Roots. So this was our number 5 downloaded episode. This is across the platform. And here's where, everything is relative. Some of our older episodes have been around a lot longer online. And so some of these episodes that are newer, if it's season 2, episode 18, so a more recent episode, and still very well downloaded. So, that's what we look at, what is being downloaded, what has gray lists, and try and do more of the content that you guys want. So if you, again, great, if you have questions, if you have topics, if you have things you want discussed, or, leaning into this different business situations, strategies, apps, business events, marketing campaigns that you want to discuss, let's chat about them inside the Facebook community. And that helps me know what you want me to talk about on the podcast. So number 5, season 2, episode 18, Back to My Roots. In the number 4 spot of all-time downloads, we have season 2, episode 12, All the Lists. In this episode, we talk about long-term lists, task lists, and your daily dues. Super important that your tasks are split up into these 3 lists. So we've got the long-term list. These are like your big ideas. So, for instance, you have some social media idea, you have a download that you want to do, you have a funnel idea, you have a new revenue stream of your business, you have that tax document you need to fill out. Those are things for the long-term list. Then you've got your task list. These are the projects you're currently working on. Not big ideas that belong on your long-term list, and not items that you must do every day. Those belong on your daily do's. Everyone has a daily do's list, but most people don't have it written down anywhere. Super important to scaling your business, knowing what those are. Things like checking your email. You know that you do this every day. This belongs on your daily do's list. But I challenge you to think about what else belongs on that list and go listen to that episode. So that's season 2, episode 12, all the lists. In the number 3 spot, this was a guest episode with Joanne Homestead called Compel and Sell. This was season 1, episode 24. Joanne is an incredible copywriter for service-based businesses, and I know that people have gone to work with Joanne based on her episode. I've discussed with entrepreneurs who said, hey, I heard Joanne speak on your podcast. I went and I worked with her. She did some incredible work for my business. I've heard tons of positive reviews. So if you have not listened to that episode, maybe you've just tuned in for season 2, maybe head back and listen to season 1, episode 24, Compel and Sell with Joanne Homestead. In the number 2 spot, a recent episode, season 2, episode 19, Starting at Step 1 with Christian N. James, otherwise known as CJ. Great episode. CJ was an incredible guest, so much energy, so much she was an amazing guest. So if you have not listened to that episode, Starting at Step 1, season 2, episode 19, go check it out. And our number 1 downloaded episode of all times out of all 50 episodes, the discomfort episode, season 2, episode 15, talking about getting out of your comfort zone. I heard an amazing line from one of my daughter's cheer coaches recently. She was in a tumbling class trying to learn this new skill. There's 3 girls in this class. They're all working on this challenging skill. These kids work really hard and they're trying to learn new things and stretch their comfort zone and whatnot. And there was a girl in the class who was very nervous. She has and you get to know each of the kids. Some of the kids are a little more, they say like throw they'll just throw it. They'll just, whether it's good, it's bad, it's ugly, whatever, they just give it a try. And then you've got kids who are a little more calculated, a little more careful, a little more nervous. Oftentimes it takes them a little longer, but they're, it's like a prettier skill at first. Every kid is different. But you've got this child who is very talented. She is a beautiful tumbler, but she's very nervous. My daughter loves like all the crazy amusement park rides. That's her personality. She is a little more adventurous. And this child is a little more timid. And she was really nervous to try this skill. And when she did it, the coach said, "Did you die?" And she kind of looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, you were super nervous. Did any of what you were worried about come true?" And she kind of thought about it and whatnot and went back and forth. And he was kind of being cheeky about it in a, funny way. But we worry so much in our businesses. What will people think? What will people do? What will this? What will that? What will this? What will I sound like? People don't like their voice. What will I look like on video? What will people think if I do that funny social media content? What will people think if I talk too much about my business on social media? What will people think if I do cold outreach? What will people think if I run ads? Who cares? Who cares what people think? None of those people are paying your mortgage. None of those people are paying your team. Not caring what other people think or caring so much less. I don't think you ever don't care I mean, I'm an overthinker, so I don't know that I'll ever get to the point that I don't care what people think, but doing it anyway, knowing that people might judge you. My grandfather said to my mother, "Oh, wow, Tiffany-Ann's really been talking a lot about her business on Facebook lately." Yep, I have. What did I do? I started posting some of my, not all of my, but some of my short form video content to my personal Facebook profile. Why? Well, my personal Facebook profile gets better reach than my business profile. If I'm going to create content, I talk about it time and time again, getting maximum reach out of something you're doing. If you're going to take the time to record that video, because let's face it, a 55-second TikTok does not take 55 seconds to record. By the time you research your hashtags, make your plan, add your cover image, potentially add captions, edit this, cut that, re-record that, it does not take 55 seconds. I mean, usually it takes me about 35 minutes. Some are super quick, but some take a little longer. I'm a firm believer in posting that content everywhere. It's one of the automations we do. I'm going to drop a link to great software that we use. So we will post to, we post to TikTok. That is our original place. And this tool will take that content and it will put it other places. So it will automatically put it to YouTube Shorts. It will automatically put it to my Facebook business Reels. It will automatically put it to Instagram Reels. But it doesn't yet do personal Facebook page Reels. So I have to post those manually. From it will automatically put it in a Google Drive. So it makes it super quick for me. But I think, why would I not put content everywhere if I'm going to take the time to record it? And so I'm going to maximize my impact from that time. It's the same reason why we take this podcast and, we put the video clips on YouTube. We take the short content and we put it in other places. If we're going to take the time to record the podcast, edit the podcast, promote the podcast, all these things, you want to take the maximum impact from that. And so, whether or not my grandfather thinks, well, she's talking a lot about her business. Okay. You can unfollow if you don't like it. And he wasn't meaning it as a judgy thing. He was just kind of like, oh, wow, like she's totally. But I'm sure that someone out there, is like, oh, she's talking, I'm not into this. Oh, well. I actually had recently a referral from a girl that I did 2 classes with her in my second year of my undergraduate degree. She's on she's been on my Facebook for years since then. We did a couple drinks stuff with it. She was super nice, but we'd lost touch or whatever. But she's on my Facebook, and recently she referred me to someone who's one of an ideal client. Because she'd been seeing stuff on Facebook and she was like, oh, I think, and literally when this person said, hey, I'm looking for someone to help me develop my business budget, I'm working through some shifts in my business and shifts in priorities and whatnot, and I really need someone to help me develop my business budget. This person I went to school with said, hey, I think Tiffany-Ann does that, and she tagged me, I think you do this. Do you do this? I think you do. How did she know that I do that? Well, because I talk about it on my Facebook. So, we have to just do it anyway. If you are all in on your business, if you want your business to succeed, you must do all the things. You must be willing to talk about it appropriately for the platform. I come back to the fact that I don't post all of my TikToks on Facebook because some of them are not necessarily relevant to, some are specific TikTok trends. Some of them maybe are not necessarily something I would want to share with every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's on my Facebook, because it's a lot of, I have, as much as I have a lot of business contacts on my Facebook, I also have a lot of family, friends, etc. And sometimes not everybody appreciates everything. But here's where we get maximum impact for the time. If you're going to invest time in your business, no matter what it's on, if you're writing a blog post, if you're recording a video, if you're doing a live, if you're doing a podcast, if you're developing a download, maybe you're developing some kind of lead magnet. You want to get maximum impact from all of these things. If you're going to take the time to do them, you want maximum impact for them. We're going to be talking about and digging into all of these things. I'm super excited about a couple of the guests. already got planned for season 3. Guys, it has been an incredible season, and just want to say thank you to all of our listeners, new listeners, welcome, old listeners, thanks for sticking around. If you could do me a favor, and if you can head over to either Spotify or the Apple Podcast app, leave us a review, a written review. Click that 5th star. I know that it's at the end of every episode. I know we talk about it and whatnot, but it really does make a difference to the show. It's why every podcast that you've ever listened to says, please go leave us a review, because it really does help the show. And with that, we will wrap up season 2 of the Surface-Based Business Society podcast. Guys, can't wait to kick off season 3. Come hang out in the Facebook community. That is where you're going to hear about all things that are coming up. And that's a wrap. If you guys have not joined the Surface-Based Business Society Facebook community, make sure you head on over to Facebook and we can continue the conversation. Be sure to also follow the show by going to any podcast app and searching Surface-Based Business Society. Click subscribe, click the 5th star, and leave us a written review. Have a great week, and we will see you soon.